Good morning from the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, and this is your Access and Privacy Online News Summary for Saturday, April 12th. We are heading into week 4 of the federal election in Canada. Hitting the radar this week, we'll start with a few national stories before diving into the local journalism reports informed by and intersecting access to information, privacy, and information management across Canada. We'll have a couple of non-Trump related stories out of the US before we continue to consider the chaos emanating from south of the border, with a look at some cybersecurity implications. And we'll end with a look at a new bill to combat disinformation in elections from Quebec and FIPA's own election survey. It's a lighter week heading into the second half of the federal election. Let's dive in. Canada has issued a warning for travelers about heightened scrutiny at the US border, indicating that Canadians might face more rigorous checks and inquiries. This development stems from ongoing diplomatic and security considerations and raises questions about data sharing and individual privacy rights. The advisory said to expect scrutiny that could extend to searches of electronic devices. For Canadians looking to cross into the United States, it's a reminder to stay informed and know their rights regarding personal data disclosure. The updated advisory notes that if denied entry to the United States, citizens could be detained while awaiting deportation if they fail to meet entry-exit requirements. Be sure to check out the help section of the FIPA website for updates to these and other frequently asked privacy questions. In other news, authorities have charged an Ontario resident in an alleged cross-border data breach involving Texas Republican Party information. According to officials, the Ontario resident claimed responsibility for the cyber attack on social media, and a search of his electronic devices showed he was in possession of data stolen from the Texas Republican Party. Officials say the stolen data contained personal information and was allegedly distributed online and made available for downloading. This case underscores the evolving risks tied to cybercrime and the need for robust data protection, especially when political organizations spanning international borders are targeted. It also highlights broader concerns about how local law enforcement cooperates with international agencies to safeguard sensitive information. Shifting to local news from Paige Peacock, LGI reporter at The Pointer, with multiple Freedom of Information requests filed as part of this reporting. As part of a shift in healthcare strategies, Peel's supervised consumption site is no longer offering safe consumption as it and multiple facilities across the province transition to homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, or HART hubs, H-A-R-T hubs, a new model aimed at holistic care. A legal back and forth is continuing, with a temporary injunction granted by the Ontario Superior Court allows similar facilities to continue operating while the transition happens and a final court decision still to come. The reason Peel's regional spokesperson gave for closing this safe consumption site is its proximity to childcare and schools. This decision has sparked debate about the balance between community health, the privacy of those seeking treatment, and transparency about how these public health decisions are reached. From Celeste Percy-Beauregard, LGI reporter at the Hamilton Spectator, a protracted legal dispute involving the Grand Erie District School Board and trustee Carol Ann Slout has reached its conclusion, with access to information requests being denied along the way. Slout can now attend meetings again after alleged violations, including sharing in-camera information with Ontario's ombudsman and a board staff member who did not have clearance to review them. This case revolved around questions of governance, public accountability, and adherence to freedom of information regulations. It underlines the importance of transparent communication between elected officials and the educational institutions they serve. Despite the resolution of this case, Slout is looking to review different sanctions against her, raising the question of how much money is being spent, a question the board refused to answer after an FOI request put in by the Hamilton Spectator. From Matt Simmons, LGI reporter, and Zach Viscara at the Narwhal, in collaboration with the Investigative Journalism Foundation. Original documents obtained through access to information reveal that just 17 government inspectors oversee 170 companies and have flagged over 9,000 potential infractions in British Columbia's oil and gas industry. During inspections conducted between 2017 and 2023, regulator inspectors quietly noted thousands of potential violations of laws and regulations. In more than 1,000 instances, inspectors documented apparent environmental infractions, such as emissions leaks, fuel and chemical spills, and more, yet the sites were marked as compliant. This story points to a significant strain on regulatory capacity and raises concerns about the public's right to know the environmental and safety implications associated with the resource extraction. From Lacey Nairn, LGI reporter at the Drumheller Mail. In a move that may set a precedent for rural governance, Wheatland County has introduced a policy to guide the use of artificial intelligence in its operations. The policy addresses how data is collected, stored, and analyzed, reflecting the growing need for local governments to grapple with emerging technologies while respecting individual privacy and maintaining open accountability. The policy will ensure all use of AI technology will comply with both the Provincial Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and Canadian privacy laws. On top of that, before AI can be used, it must be reviewed and approved by the county's Information Services Department and must comply with the privacy requirements. From Isaac Fan-Nay, LGI reporter at the Tyee. Documents obtained through access to information highlight both the problem being addressed by Transport Canada's employee education program on residential schools, while also revealing the gaps, inaccuracies, and a lack of meaningful context. During an initial session, attendees made comments denying or minimizing the effects of residential schools in the video call's chat channel. The Ontario Regional Director General noted how the incident highlights the importance of reconciliation events and training, and that the comments displayed a complete disregard of Indigenous history. Researchers on inclusivity and Indigenous issues say the responses highlight problems in the public service and more widely in society as a backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is fueled by right-leaning politicians. Transport Canada did not disclose whether any disciplinary action has been taken. This situation highlights the critical need to handle sensitive historical information responsibly and transparently, and it raises questions about oversight, curriculum design, and the role of government agencies in truth and reconciliation efforts. Moving from our Canadian overview, we turn our sights to the United States, where two non-Trump stories stand out this week. In a landmark whistleblower case, a judge ruled to grant $6.6 million to whistleblowers who reportedly alleged misconduct by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. The court found that the 4 Paxton aides were fired in retaliation for reporting allegations that he was using his office to accept bribes from an Austin real estate developer. Beyond the financial award, the case raises questions about whistleblower protections, emphasizing how crucial legal frameworks can be in safeguarding individuals who expose potential government wrongdoing. Paxton plans to appeal the ruling, even though Paxton's office did not dispute any claims or damages in the lawsuit. Paxton not only faces steep legal costs, but is setting his sights on the U.S. Senate by announcing a primary challenge to Republican Senator John Cornyn. Cornyn has received criticism from Paxton and other Republicans after he suggested that Trump might not be the best Republican candidate for the 2024 presidential election. This move illustrates the broader ideological rifts within the Republican Party, and from a privacy perspective draws attention to how campaign data is managed and shared among party factions during heated primaries. Now let's address the ongoing swirl of U.S. stories involving President Donald Trump. In a surprising move, President Trump dismissed 4-star general leading the National Security Agency and its Cyber Command, sparking immediate concerns about leadership stability. Senior military leaders were informed with no advanced notice of the firing of Air Force General Tim Haw, who also oversaw the Pentagon's NSA, the officials said. It's unclear who now oversees these important functions. Also fired was Haw's civilian deputy at the NSA, Wendy Noble. The NSA handles vast amounts of sensitive data, so changes at the top inevitably raise questions about transparency, oversight, and the direction of U.S. intelligence activities. Under the Trump administration, chemical industry lobbyists are pushing for exemptions from federal pollution regulations. Critics argue that such exemptions could reduce corporate accountability for environmental damage, illustrating the tension between economic interests and public access to information about pollutant levels and health risks. The Environmental Defense Fund has filed a request under the Federal Freedom of Information Act for all records related to an Environmental Protection Agency portal, including the names of those seeking exemptions. They have also pledged to go to court to obtain the records if necessary to make them public. An appeals court decision has restored DOJ access to key government records after a period of restricted disclosure. The appeals judge has determined that it is not unreasonable for an agency to have administrator-level access to upgrade software and IT systems. The original lawsuit accused the Trump administration of handing over sensitive data for reasons beyond its intended use, violating the Privacy Act. While the specifics are still unfolding, the ruling underscores the ongoing tug-of-war between political access to personal information and privacy, topics we've often tackled in past episodes. In a significant policy initiative, the U.S. Energy Department has opened the door for AI data center development on federal lands, including Los Alamos. While this promises advances in research, it also raises pertinent questions about data privacy, especially in partnership with private tech firms, and the extent of public oversight. Requests for information from the Department of Energy also reveal the agency outlines a variety of electrical sources available at each site, from solar arrays to gas turbines. While the ongoing trade war is taking a lot of the spotlight, there is at least one privacy area impacted by the tariff dispute. A reported deal involving TikTok was delayed when the White House introduced new tariff measures against China. TikTok is supposed to find an American company to sell the social media platform to, but because of tariffs, that has been stalled. If the tariff extension keeps control of TikTok's algorithm under ByteDance's authority, the national security concerns that are leading to the ban will persist. The situation underscores how foreign policy can collide with tech and privacy policies, particularly when user data from international platforms are domains of influence. A court ruling mandated that Trump pays the legal costs of a UK firm he had taken to court over allegations in the infamous Russia dossier. Trump sued Orbis Business Intelligence, the company responsible for creating the dossier, saying it was phony and Orbis had violated British data protection laws. The lawsuit was dropped because Trump took too long to take action, and the case was unlikely to succeed. This draws renewed attention to the complexities of cross-border lawsuits and how sensitive information, especially in high-profile political disputes, moves through different legal systems. With cuts to U.S. foreign aid still creating impact, various organizations and nations receiving those funds are preparing strategies to mitigate the potential fallout. Blair Glencourse, founder and co-CEO of Accountability Lab, has been tracking the impact of the U.S. cuts. He indicates that the data from the beginning indicated that it would be around now that organizations were going to begin failing, and that is what is happening. Part of this discussion involves ensuring accountability on where funds go, how they're allocated, and what transparency measures can be maintained if the budget shrinks. Now let's look at what's happening with Canada's elections, including a notable effort in Quebec to combat disinformation. Given the importance of this election, we're seeing lots of coverage intersecting foreign interference, information management, disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation impacting democracy in Canada. In a recent investigation from McGill University's Media Ecosystem Observatory, researchers spotlight how disinformation is thriving ahead of the 2025 federal election. Led by Angus Bridgman, the team uncovers tactics like buying and repurposing Facebook groups, inflating membership counts, and deploying AI-generated bots that seamlessly pose as everyday users. They also reveal how manipulated images and AI-driven posts are making it harder than ever to distinguish fact from fiction. By creating undercover social media accounts, the observatory's team tracks and flags these digital threats, reminding us all that transparency and vigilance are key weapons in this evolving information war. In a move to respond at a provincial level, the Quebec government has introduced a bill targeting election disinformation. The legislation imposes new penalties to create oversight mechanisms to safeguard the integrity of provincial elections. The bill creates an offense to knowingly spread false information to influence or disturb an election or compromise the public's trust in the electoral process. That would include AI-generated deepfakes that impersonate candidates or lies about a candidate's resume or qualifications to influence a vote. The proposed legislation also requires parties to disclose expenses incurred for advertising during the pre-election period and puts rules in place to better protect voters' personal information. It underscores a broader trend in Canadian politics to preempt the kinds of misinformation campaigns seen elsewhere in recent years. Looking ahead to Canada's 2025 federal election, there's increasing scrutiny on how political parties plan to balance data-driven campaign tactics with privacy rights. Watchdogs emphasize the importance of transparent policies for voter data collection and call on all parties to reveal how they'll ensure citizens' information is ethically managed. As always, we hope today's stories help you stay informed about the latest issues surrounding privacy, information management, and public transparency. To help us keep the mics on, be sure to subscribe to FIPA News Monitoring or consider a donation. Our writer is Sean Fisk. Original music in today's show was composed by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, your host and producer. Thank you for joining. A big FIPA thank you to all our contributors, reporters, and outlets, and to you, our listeners. Stay safe and stay informed.